and also to put the recording going. So I will make her the host. And now we are good to go, I think. Yeah. So we will begin with the opening recitations. If you know the recitation, you are most welcome to join. If you don't know, then let your mind settle down and listen to these words and let these words touch your heart, so that you begin to develop these dispositions that these words are helping us develop. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious awakening. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious awakening. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious awakening. Thus, until I achieve awakening, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until awakening is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until awakening is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until awakening is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all migratory beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Now please let body and mind quietly, naturally settle into their own places. Let body and mind find their own places of rest. This means that we have to trust that all we have to do is get out of the way. And once we drop our agendas, we drop our plans, we drop our worries, or we drop our plans of what we need to do later this evening, later tomorrow, later next week. If we just drop that. And we drop reminiscing about an hour ago, this morning, or yesterday. Those are all the ways in which we get in the way of body and mind settling. When we get out of the way, body and mind will settle. And they will settle together. And they will rest in the same place, which is on this seat, in this room, in this house, in your particular part of town, in your particular part of the country, in your particular part of the world. Your body and mind occupying the same space, resting in the same space. Throughout the day, often body and mind are in at least two different places, and sometimes more. Tell yourself now, for just a small fraction of your day, you're going to allow your body and mind to be in the same place. A place of not needing to do anything. A place of self-care. Because it is only in learning self-care, effective self-care, genuine self-care. It is only in learning how to skillfully care for oneself that then one develops the ability and the capacity to truly care for others. So that eventually self-care and other care becomes the same thing. But to reach that place, first, learn self-care. And at the heart of self-care is to let body and mind rest. Not resting in oblivion, not resting without awareness, but rather body and mind together. Body at ease, mind brilliant, radiant. The first point in the 7 points says, at the beginning, before everything else, train in the preliminaries. The preliminaries are the preliminaries that turn our minds away from distraction, that orientates our mind to a commitment for self-care. These are often expressed in a formulation that includes 4 topics, 4 consideration, 4 thoughts that turn the mind. The 4 considerations that help us see more clearly how to free ourselves from suffering and to achieve both the causes of happiness and happiness itself. So the first point, consider the fact that although we now have a human body, a human existence with all the endowments and all the opportunities, it will be very difficult to obtain this again. This life cannot be repeated. Therefore, recognize the opportunity that we have right now. For this lifetime, I have obtained an existence of evident leisure and endowment, which has been extremely difficult to find and can easily be lost. I will not let it remain enthralled by meaningless distractions, but will instead endeavor to use this life to actualize a positive result, the supreme of all results, which is freedom. Freedom from confusion, freedom from suffering. Recognize with joy that no matter how certain things might seem difficult and challenging, fundamentally, we have now the opportunity to achieve this freedom and liberation. And for that single reason alone, whatever the inconveniences, whatever the difficulties, whatever the challenges in other areas, are nothing compared to this supreme opportunity to be free and to be able to develop the capacity to free others. Then consider that the time of death is uncertain, for it may arrive all of a sudden. Since all composite things are impermanent, constantly disintegrating phenomena, so once anyone is born, you will certainly die. This lifetime, this life is uncertain as that of a drop of dew on a blade of grass. Whether tomorrow or next life will come first, nobody knows. And when the Lord of Death arrives, nobody can deny him. So now Now, right now is the time for us to start striving for life's true meaning. Third, consider that suffering originates in non-virtue, non-virtuous actions that we create, and happiness is the result of the goodness that we engage in, that we get ourselves involved with. Ripened results come from causes. And so my virtuous actions will bring me happiness, and my non-virtuous actions will bring me suffering. Virtue and non-virtue in this context is referring to acts that cause harm are non-virtuous, and actions that are free from harm and in fact bring about wellness and happiness to one and to all, those are what we call virtuous. Infallible karmic causality is the basic character and disposition of reality. And that cannot be denied, that cannot be changed. So from now on, we shall apply ourselves with regard to what is to be adopted and what is to be abandoned. Abandon all non-virtues and adopt all beneficial, virtuous activities of body, speech, and mind. Finally, consider that all of confused, cyclic existence entails suffering, entails dissatisfaction. No one in the three lower realms, or even in the more exalted states of samsara, the so-called three higher realms, experiences even a moment of real happiness. What's more, the myriad wrongdoings that are involved in wandering through this existence, they are the root cause of continued rebirth within this cycle of confusion. Therefore, now resolve that I am finished with that and shall now practice the supreme path to peace. With these four thoughts that turn the mind, with these four considerations as the foundation, as the preliminaries. Next, we train in the preliminary for the main cultivation of both relative and absolute bodhicitta. But first, it's absolute bodhicitta that we train in first. The aspect on insight, the aspect on wisdom. Followed then by relative bodhicitta, which foregrounds meditating on love and compassion. Both of these meditations are anchored on an even more basic meditation first, which is to use breath, that which we all have, that which we all need, that automatic process of breathing. Now bring your attention and awareness to your breath. At your own pace, when you are ready, begin to bring your attention, begin to let your attention, begin to let your awareness, begin to let your interest coalesce around the movement of breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Especially at the beginning, as you breathe, make an effort to breathe down to your belly. Imagine breath going all the way down to your belly and filling your belly. And then breath leaving and exhaling. Inhale all the way to fill your entire belly. A few moments of this life-giving breath, filling your belly with breathing life force, and then exhale and relax. Inhale, feel the brightness of your mind and feel your body waking up. Exhale, feel the openness that arises from exhaling. Feel the mind unfolding in all directions while remaining here. And feel the body relaxing as you exhale. And count to 21 as one complete set. Inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2, all the way to 21. If before 21 you lose count, that is very normal. Just simply start again. with your mind and awareness still coalescing around awareness of your breath. Inhale, exhale. Now just listen to the prompts that are given in this text on how to meditate on absolute bodhicitta. Don't think too much about the words. Let the words point to the meaning that we should allow to arise in our mind. Regard all phenomena, regard all experiences, regard all thoughts, regard all distractions, regard all strayings as dreams. As you continue to count your breath, whenever you find your thoughts straying somewhere, do not react in a strong way, trying to yank it back here. But in that moment of recognition, see how that straying is happening within the stream and therefore insubstantial and therefore ultimately not important. And then return to counting breath, starting again with 1 and 2 and 3. In understanding this point, we are training not to be dragged around by our thoughts and our emotions. Not to be under the control of our thoughts and emotions. Neither feeling the need to control thoughts and emotions. Simply remain natural. Whatever that needs to arise will just arise. Don't feed it. Don't push it away. Just like a wave or a ripple in the water that arises from the ocean, from the water, will once again subside back into the water. To try to do anything to smooth the ripple or to calm the wave will only create more ripples and more waves. Just recognize and release. Recognize and let go. Recognize and let go. When you have this understanding, then even distraction is not a problem. For the distraction has no power to drag you around. The distraction will simply be a passing cloud, an echo, a flash of lightning, ephemeral, arising, ceasing, arising, ceasing. Then the other 3 lines are examine, recognize the nature of this awareness, which is birthless. Empty of any substantiality, but yet radiant and bright. Then let even the antidote to distraction and confusion be freed in its own place. Finally, the essence of this practice is simply to settle into the natural state. Settle, therefore, into the natural state. And free yourself from the tyranny of thoughts, from the tyranny of emotions, by recognizing the nature of these thoughts, the nature of these emotions. They are not me, they are not mine. They are not I. They are not me, they are not mine. They are not I. If you attempt to simply settle in this natural state, and after a few moments you find your mind wandering, then recall again that the wandering or the straying is insubstantial, and once again settle back into the natural state. If necessary, you can still continue to count breath. If that provides a little bit more anchoring, feel free to do that. Take responsibility for your path. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to test it out and see how it works for you. Everything that has been said up to this point, and forward even, they are all prompts and suggestions. Tools put in your hands, but you have to test out the tools and learn how to use them effectively. So sometimes count your breath, sometimes don't count. Sometimes let your awareness coalesce around breath, and sometimes simply settle into the basic state, into the natural state. And next we transition to the training in relative bodhicitta, where love and compassion are foregrounded. The first prompt for this meditation, given in the text, is train in taking and sending alternately. To begin this training in relative bodhicitta, the instructions is to visualize your dear mother vividly in front, or someone that you naturally feel a sense of gratitude, love, fondness, warmth. Let that person, usually said to be our mother, to appear vividly in front of us. On the basis of our dear mother, or someone dear to us and close to us at heart, that we have a natural fondness and love and appreciation for. Using first this person to cultivate maitri or metta or loving kindness, and to cultivate karuna or compassion. We can do so by reflecting in the following manner. Because she, my mother, first gave me this human existence of leisure and opportunity, which I have right now, which she nurtured without negligence from when I was born. I have now encountered these teachings that lead to freedom and happiness. Because of this, it is now possible for me to achieve the happiness that I have been looking for. And all of this is due to the kindness of my mother, who gave birth to me, who took care of me, who taught and protected me. Throughout all stages when I was in her womb and after birth, she nurtured me with impossible acts of kindness. Not only that, but since samsara's beginningless time, she has constantly watched me with eyes of love, perpetually held me with affection, and repeatedly protected me from harm and misfortune. She has given me so much benefit and happiness. And this indeed is true kindness. Then further reflect, thinking of our dear mother, on how she, our dear mother, has been wandering in the infinite cycle of existence with so many kinds of dissatisfactions and sufferings, all the while still working for our welfare and our benefit. So in return, I shall now help her by providing her with happiness, by providing her with comfort, by providing her with freedom from confusion. I shall protect her from harm and all misfortune. I shall myself seek the complete happiness of my dear mother. As I recognize the kindness, the warmth, the protection that she has given me and continue to give me. Without rhyme or reason other than she gave birth to me. Then consider what truly harms our dear mother. What is it? Recognize that it's suffering that harms her directly, while the origin of suffering harms her indirectly. Recognizing that, think, I shall take all these upon myself. Take into your own heart in clean swaths, as if layers sheared off by a sharp knife, all the sufferings, the origin, the afflictions, all of that exists in your mother, as if cutting off layer by layer. Take that all away from her. And this is the aspect of taking. Now, without yet using the method of breath, first cultivate this feeling. Then think that in order for us to achieve the happiness of our mother or whoever it is that we are using for this meditation, unconditionally offer our body, our wealth, and all our virtues to her. Especially imagine giving her all the possibilities and opportunities for her to realize her own cause of suffering and for her to abandon the cause of suffering. Wishing upon her the ultimate wealth, the wealth of seeing clearly. And that is what we give her. Therefore, this is what the instructions mean by train in taking and sending alternately. When this meditation on Maitri and Karuna becomes more stable, then when you are ready, then you can take the next prompt, which is mount these two on your breath. And that is when you breathe in the suffering of your mother and you breathe out, giving your mother all happiness and freedom from suffering. Breathe in, breathe out. But do not rush into that. For we first have to cultivate love and compassion to a stable degree, to a meaningful degree. For we are not able to take if we do not have courage. And we are not able to give if we ourselves have not yet experienced happiness. If we ourselves have not yet experienced the warmth of love and compassion. So first focus on developing love and compassion, in identifying love and compassion, and in recognizing how we are the recipients of other people's love and compassion freely given to us. From great acts of kindness like that of our mother in this life, or seemingly random and insignificant, but nonetheless kindness and warmth and protection that others have given us up to this point in our life. Learn to recognize that first. In that way, we infuse our minds with love and compassion. We glow and beam with love and compassion. Then very naturally, this glow and this beam of love and compassion will begin to extend outwards, so that what we experience, we wish upon others. Without contriving it, naturally, we will wish for others to also experience this love and compassion. I recommend that you do it this way rather than intellectually carrying the ideal of loving and having compassion for all, and then artificially trying to feel that way. Instead of doing that, the special instruction here is first tap into yourself recognizing and feeling love and compassion. Feel how good it is to be on the receiving end of this, of other people's love and compassion. Then quite naturally, we will radiate back this love and compassion to all others. So the guided meditation part is over now. So of course, when you can, you take more time to work on different parts of this, because I'm trying to take us through to both the trainings of absolute and relative bodhicitta. And so we're doing it all in one session. But sometimes, if you're able to dedicate, like say, one whole afternoon or even one day, this Lojong practice, you can begin the first session of the day with the preliminaries of turning the mind away from distraction. A short session of that, perhaps. Then a longer session on just breathing in and out and counting and letting awareness coalesce around your breath. Then take a break, go out and do some gardening, walk around, come back, do the next session where you meditate on absolute bodhicitta. The key in that absolute bodhicitta, at least at this point, is to see how everything that we think, that we feel, that we experience, all of it should have no power over you. Don't let any of that drag you around. Even the most subtle dragging around, you say, I'm not going to be dragged around. Drop it. And it's done through seeing the illusory nature of both object, subject, and even the resolve to overcome being dragged around. Even that resolve we want to see. That it too has no independent existence, only interdependently arising. And that which arises interdependently will cease interdependently. Will cease interdependently. Then next session, cultivate love and compassion. Then final session, use the breath again. So one circle back to breath, except that now breathe in, take, breathe out, give. This taking and giving, if you actually develop this steps, all these steps, you actually develop this, in a patient and deliberate way, then the giving and the taking using breath doesn't need a lot of effort at all. It's not forced. And the problems that sometimes they say that Lojong done too soon might create, certain types of problems. That's true. I think last time there were some questions about that. Yes, they are. In fact, these are considered very advanced teachings. It says, don't underestimate the power of thoughts. Even thinking about taking suffering, you might actually, kind of bring the conditions for suffering to arise. But even that you have to recognize, of course, this suffering is not like you have literally taken anyone's suffering. It's just that your own, seeds of suffering are suddenly sped up the ripening. So this also is a point that I should clarify, They say that if you do this in the wrong way, you might end up with a lot of suffering arising and you can't handle it, and then you might give up. But even if when that happens, it's not like you took away someone's suffering and took them. It's actually you quickly, kind of fast forwarded, all your karmic debts. I mean, from one perspective, it is good, but it's sort of like saying, if you don't yet have the capacity to carry that load, and they're all dumped upon you at one time, then you might be derailed. So that's the point of that, right? But I can guarantee you, if you develop this, the way that this tradition lays it out for us, then problems will not come. When we breathe in the suffering of our mother and breathe out happiness for them, problems will not come. And not only problems will not come, it's natural. It feels natural to take and to give and to give and to take and to give. And you will not feel impoverished. You will not feel exhausted. You will not feel heavy, because absolute bodhicitta is purifying everything. Purify means releasing. I remember way back, where I don't yet have a very clear understanding of these matters. Early 90s. I remember going into a space, a yoga studio healing space. And it was still very, I just arrived in the US for a few years and not much experience. Back at home, we don't have healing space, yoga space, So I went for the first time, actually, come to think of it, to a yoga studio because one of our teachers was giving a program there. But I remember walking into that space and felt, I usually don't, I'm very dense, my constitution. I don't feel energy. But that time, I really felt that it was very thick, that space. The space was very thick and very heavy. Later, I understood is that a lot of work is done there. And the people who come leave their stuff there, so to say. But the people who offer the services there have not dissipated. Yeah, those things. So they sort of linger, you know. So it's possible, these things, yeah, energetically. But absolute bodhicitta is going to clear that out. So we should not rush, right? Should not rush to relative bodhicitta. Should train absolute bodhicitta. Because even as we're training absolute bodhicitta, if the motivation is I want to free all beings from suffering, then you are already practicing the relative bodhicitta. So don't rush. Let's take a real short break and then we will start. I said last week, we're going to start looking at the commitments and the precepts for Lojong. So we have learned a little bit now about the main practice. So in the style of many practices in Tibetan Buddhism, whenever you receive a set of practices, formal meditation practice, it always comes with commitments and precepts. Precepts means like things that you're committed to do. Commitments are more about, you know, things that you understand that they are going to harm your commitment to the practice. And so you learn to avoid them. So that's what we're going to start looking at. This is point 6 and point 7 of the Mahayana Lojong in 7 points. So let's take a very brief break so that everybody gets a chance to stretch a little. And then we will start. Okay, so we're back. Somebody asked me if you want to read more, you know, on this, what would be a good kind of reading to help? Of course, there are so many books on this 7-point Lojong. Most of them are collected, edited transcripts of teachings given by contemporary teachers on this topic. So some of the most famous people teaching this is like Pema Chodron. And then Pema Chodron's teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, also has, you know, a book. Then her other teacher, I believe, Ziga Kongtu, probably has a book on this. Charlie Kepken, Alan Wallace, many people, you know. There's even a Zen teacher who has written a commentary on the Mahayana Lojong in 7 points, yeah. So of course, you know, all those books, you if you want to, you know, learn more. But as I said, you know, one caveat, my own prejudice, I want to remind you that I have looked at all of them, and in, I would say, all cases, they treat somehow this whole text as one continuous 59 slogans. So like everyone is sort of like something for you to think about, something for you to consider, and something for you to practice. Here, the approach that I'm emphasizing is, no, each of the 7 points, these 59 divided into 7 points, each of them, where they fall, they play a particular role in the overall path that the Lojong tradition presents. Yeah. So point number 2, that's the main practice. Point number 3, right? When great difficulties arise, how do you handle them? Yeah. Point number 4. If you essentialize Lojong practice, what is it? What are the elements within a whole lifetime? And then in that crucial period when you are actively dying, how do you translate these 5 points to that time when you're preparing to die? Then the 5th point is, the measure, it says. How do you measure how well your Lojong practice is going? Then 6th point is where all the commitments, all the samaya. So samaya is given. This word samaya comes from the Vajrayana context. And as far as I can tell, because none of the commentaries clearly, from what I've seen, say how is point number 6 and point number 7 different? So the author uses this almost assuming that we would understand. Why point number 6 is called samaya, commitments, and point number 7, they're called precepts. So what I am able to kind of see as what makes them different is samaya in the Vajrayana context. They are things that you don't do, things that you will avoid getting involved in or avoid doing, so that your commitment to your practice remains uncompromised. So likewise here, using this vocabulary of samaya, the samaya of mind training, here it is saying the opposite of what's here in this section. If you get involved in that, it will deteriorate. It will compromise your commitment to Lojong. Yeah, so let's look at what these are. Right? So the first guidance given here is, it says, train always in the 3 basic points. And so when you train in these 3 basic points, then you will not expose yourself to conditions and situations where it's going to cause your commitment to Lojong to deteriorate. So what are these 3 basic points? They have to do with don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And so even though the line itself is not framed in don't do the following things, right? But when you look at the 3, it is don't do this, and don't do this. So what are the 3 things? First is don't transgress even the smallest. Don't transgress, don't go against even the most minor points of trainings and vows in the broader context of Buddhist practice. Point number 1. In case you're writing down, I'll give all 3 before I elaborate. The second don't is don't behave recklessly. Don't behave recklessly, or don't behave in outrageous ways. And the third says don't be partial. Don't be partial. Okay, first point. First point is really interesting. The commentaries say sometimes when you practice Lojong, because the words in Lojong, the expression in Lojong, kind of inspires us or challenge us to be brave, to be courageous, right? Take on the suffering of all beings, you know. Do not fear suffering. Do not be afraid of even self-grasping, because that can be transformed. So because sometimes the Lojong language, you know, can suggest, you know, such a heroic attitude, right? And because Lojong can sound to emphasize so much on, for the sake of achieving the highest good, you will do anything and everything necessary. Sometimes that can lead to thinking, maybe certain kinds of negative actions is okay to do if it is for the greater good. Yes, there are places in the Buddhist texts where some examples of that sort are given. But here, the Lojong, this point here says, please be very careful. Even if it is true, and it is, that there are places that say, your motivation of great compassion has to be so great that even if it means creating suffering for yourself, but it can be good for others, you should do it. It says, be careful. Even if the spirit of that statement is something we should work on embodying, you should not be so quick and so ready to say, oh, I practice Lojong, so I can do those things. Because the point here to me is that it's easy to kid yourself. So many well-meaning people end up deluding themselves, end up deluding ourselves, especially when you can say, you know, like, but I'm doing this for the greater good. You know, Hitler said that. For the greater good. And if along the way, a minority needs to be inconvenienced or sacrificed, then for the greater good. The spirit of that is never, even in the Buddhist, especially in the Buddha, the way the Buddha, even in the examples of you doing something negative, it's like you cannot cause harm to others, you know. And so this one, you know, don't. It says, don't say, you know, oh, because I'm practicing Lojong. So some of the more minor, like lower level vows, you know, we like to think, oh, some vows are higher than other vows. Right? This commitment to the enlightenment and happiness of all beings means, you know, if it means that I have to go against some of the other rules given or some of the other precepts of training given, you know, then for the greater good, you know, I can do it. Here it says, watch out for that. Following from that, the second point, don't act recklessly, or some other translation says, don't act in an obnoxious way. Here the examples given is, it says, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're so inspired and so excited that I'm practicing Lojong now, you know, and so I should overcome all forms of self-cherishing. And so at the first opportunity that you can demonstrate that you have, you're going to practice not cherishing the self, you go do reckless and dangerous things. The examples given in the old commentaries is, he says, you go hang out with lepers. This is based on the understanding that, leprosy can spread very quickly. And, but there were some who say, oh, I'm practicing Lojong, so now I'm going to go take on suffering. I'm going to jump in there. Or I'm going to, these are examples that maybe we're like, really? So one example given is say, chopping down powerful trees, but it's really more about like haunted, kind of like haunted places. Then you say, I practice Lojong, so I can handle all the demons and all the suffering. So I'm just going to go. So this is like, sort of like idiot compassion. Because it's motivated actually by pride. Like you want to show. You want to prove, maybe not even proving to others, proving to yourself. Or parading around your ego to yourself, even if there's no audience. That is still a problem of the ego. So it says, don't do that. And the third, all forms of partiality. There the commentary says, what does it mean here in Lojong? It means you may develop like tolerance for human beings causing you problems, but then when it is like spirit beings causing problems, in the explanations given, it says, but when spirit beings, that you feel like it's spirit beings causing problems, then you start doing all kinds of different rituals to keep them away, to, avert obstacles, to blast them away, It says, as long as there's this partial mind. And so here, they also say, like, respecting the powerful while ignoring the weak. Doing favors for people you like, but not for people you don't like. That is such a... That last point, actually, I think as a society, for example, these days, you can say that relative to 100 years ago, right? There isn't, compared to 100 years ago, discrimination is not necessarily so in your face. But now, the way of discriminating is not necessarily going out there to disadvantage someone, but it is to give those whom you like, whom you are connected to, special advantages. So this point is very hard, because when you do that, you even feel good about yourself. You're like, oh, I gave them a break, right? But then if you look at, there's a whole pattern to who you give a break to, people who look like you, people who from your neighborhood, people who went to the school you went to, people who go to the country club that you go to. Now we have a problem, So here it says, avoid partiality. So even when doing good, right, we need to kind of be more aware, like giving someone a break. If there is a pattern, in this, now, especially in the US, this issue of discrimination has come into focus for Especially for the majority, which has kind of some think, oh, it's no longer a problem. Some things, it was never a problem. Now it's becoming more clear. I think this point, about partiality, it gives us a more subtle view. So this is the first. Then the next samaya, the next commitment says, change your attitude, but remain as you are. So what this means is, don't make a big deal out of Lojong practice. So don't buy those t-shirts that say, I'm practicing Lojong now. I'm just kidding. I don't think there are t-shirts like that, I'm a Lojong practitioner. I cherish others. It says, no, don't do that. Change your attitude. Don't contrive, oh, now I have to walk very mindful, I have to speak in very soft voice and sweet. It's like, it says, no, don't do these contrived things. Change your attitude. Don't make a big deal. Right? In particular, it says, understand that the heart of Lojong, right, is to recognize self-cherishing and work with that self-cherishing, which is actually the cause of all dissatisfaction and suffering, as Shantideva reminds us. But you don't reject this self-cherishing in this Lojong. You begin there. You accept that. But you begin to work with that so that self-cherishing turns into cherishing others. So know that this is at the heart of Lojong. Applied to this second samaya, this second commitment, change your attitude but remain natural. What that means there is, you might say, oh, now I'm practicing Lojong, okay? And again, sometimes what happens is you begin to kind of become like a pain to others. Maybe because you want so much for others, to be kind, to be good. Then you start becoming annoying to others. You have picked up a new cause, right? Maybe before the cause was like some worthy cause. Now you have picked up the Lojong cause, right? Then you're like, I need to rearrange all the furniture in this house. I mean, probably nobody does that, but versions of that. Now we cannot do XYZ anymore. Then you cause a lot of conflict in your family, among your friends. Basically here it's saying, don't. Change your attitude. Your social kind of circles, don't need to reject them. But not like go on like before, but change your inner attitude. But you see, our current way, especially the American way, is if you know something is good, You have to tell everyone. You have to shout, from the top of your roof because it's good for everyone. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Lojong says, no, you don't do that. Because it will turn other people off. When we begin to change our attitude, and when that change, actually turns into a change that people around you can see, that is when you will transform others. Not by shoving it down their throats. So Lojong is completely a different way, So this is the second samaya. The third samaya, the third samaya is don't expose others' weak limbs. What it means here is we have this habit, of hurting people where we know is their weakest point. It says, don't do that. Don't do that. We kind of, it's sort of habitual, we don't even like make a plan, I'm going to go, push that button, but we do it, So it says, if you do that, you're breaking, right? You're endangering your commitment to Lojong. And the next one, don't dwell on others' affairs. Particularly, don't ponder, another translation, don't ponder other people's flaws. Oh, we are very good at that, And so Jesus also said, why can you see, right? Kind of the splinter in the other person's eyes and cannot see the log that is in yours. But that's how we are. And so we go about finding faults with everyone. We go about, we always, point outside. Why is this like this? Why is this like that? Why is this? Why is that? And don't see this mind itself that is going about picking at faults. That's really very heavy, Why go around collecting other people's trash? I saw a quote today on Facebook. I think it was I don't remember. It was either Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Of course, this is a comment on contemporary American politics. So it was basically two friends. I think it was Harry Potter. Somebody, Hermione, I think, saying to Harry, I think, like, he already controls, the Department of Magic. and control like the ministry of magic, and control, the magic world. Why are you letting him into your mind? Right? He's already wrecking enough. Right? He's already wrecking enough misery and destruction to all the important things. The one place you can keep him from coming in is your own mind. But if we keep dwelling on, then we become that one place that we can guard. We are also invited this in. I'm not saying you have to shut up or anything like that. I'm saying recognize, I mean, in terms of what's going on today, and then where it matters, when it's time to vote. Vote your beliefs, vote your conscience, whatever it is. Yeah. But generally with everything, like no need, But our culture, contemporary culture, is teaching us to be suspicious, teaching us to be, to be basically suspicious, complain, half empty. Everything is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Even when something good happens, instead of looking for silver lining, we always look for rotten, the rotten lining. But, but. It's like addictive, I said that, again, recent events, in the United States, never before, I dare say, has there been so much awareness, although I think still not enough, and if you ask me, so much awareness about the significance of Juneteenth, that just recently. And so, of course, the people that I'm friends with on Facebook, they're posting Juneteenth. Then I was thinking, I'm sure, I'm going to see something. Not so much the opposite, because, the people who friend me, quite predictable. They're all on board, Juneteenth, like, oh, we never knew about this. Now we know, now we need to, da, 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 da. What I was predicting that I would see, and which I saw before, even before 10 a.m., was like, well, it's good that we are celebrating Juneteenth now, but did you know, actually, bad things continue to happen, da 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 da. Not all were emancipated, not all had. It's like, yes, but can we not immediately go look at, it's so heavy. Sort of like in Lojong, before we even know what love and compassion is, we go get caught up and sucked into suffering, as if there is not enough suffering already. Right? So first cultivate pure vision, what we call. Pure vision is not, putting on pink lenses and say, oh, the world, nothing is wrong with the world. Pure vision is recognizing the fundamental, pristine nature of everything. But then also understanding that depending on positive or negative causes and conditions, suffering or happiness will manifest. First, need wisdom to see that. Then your love and compassion becomes very effective. If you cultivate love and compassion without pure vision, without understanding of emptiness, without wisdom, without insight, your love and compassion will lead to a lot of pain. Really, it will lead to a lot of pain. We have all loved and had compassion before, where it became more and more messy and more heavy. People even kill each other because of love. All right? So, love and compassion on the one side, relative bodhicitta, wisdom, clear seeing on the other side, absolute bodhicitta, and bodhicitta in the end are not two things. These are two sides of the same coin. Right? Same thing. So tonight, we will stop here with these commitments. Let's see a few minutes in case any questions or comments, clarification. In terms of commentary, I think I lost my chain of thought. My point about if you want to read more, so I said, there are all these books, and so I gave that caveat. My second point I want to make is that now that you have, if you have been following this, you have had about 11, actually not 10, today is 11. You have had 11 sessions of this. I think you should be pretty good now at reading the traditional commentaries. So they're very compact. But I think, I'm pretty sure all of you have enough now to work with that I think if you go to the commentaries written, 500 years ago, you are able to, I think, get a lot out of them, I believe. Yeah. So of course there is a big book called, Mind Training, the Great Collection. Yeah. The book is heavy, the book is thick, and, not so cheap. People's finances are not so easy these days. Luckily, you can go online and find the translation of one early commentary. So go to Lotsawa House. Okay, what I'll do here is I will post it on my where I'm sharing now. Let's see. I'm trying to do. Let me share it on my Facebook, and then maybe Fabiola, if you can pick from there and put on the Zoom chat. So this is an old commentary, so it's very compact. But I think I feel that it's a good one to read for those of you who have been following this series. And often I'm also reading from there and expanding from there. So this is freely available as a download, as a PDF, as an EPUB format. So look at that commentary and read it again and again, And I think you also know how to translate, examples that he gives, such as like cutting down big trees, or, spirits, we may or may not believe these things. I'll leave that up to you. But I think you are all now quite equipped to get a lot out of these traditional commentaries. Especially actually in general, Lojong material, even if they are traditional commentaries, the language is very simple. Of course, to take to heart and to practice, not so easy. But they don't use a lot of technical language. These are almost, even the commentaries are colloquial, very heartfelt words. Yeah. So, still waiting in case you have any questions.
Would you repeat the first point of the 3 basic points?
The first one, right? The first one is don't ignore seemingly small precepts or points of training, like vows, and say, oh, that one, it's okay, I'm now a Lojong practitioner, so, I can handle, the suffering that comes from telling a small lie. Because, there was a good reason why I need to do that. Be careful. Don't ignore small. And that is, in the context of, Lojong can speak with such a great mind, a great, courageous heart. Then it has led some people to kind of practice idiot. Well, the second point is idiot compassion. This is idiot bravery. Bravery is a good thing, but also a lot of, idiot bravery has led to a lot of deaths as well. Oops,
Dr. Lai, I've got a question regarding
Yes.
meditation practice. So can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead. It's not so clear, but I can hear.
Okay. So my question is, I have been working and trying to take the awareness practice off the cushion.
Say that again, sorry.
Especially I have been working on trying to take the awareness practice off the cushion. So, especially I'll notice my mind's going to a discursive place, or just, maybe a place that I don't really want my mind to be in, bringing it back to awareness. And I feel like as a new beginner, I'm pretty rotten at it. And so I'm wondering, is the practice more to train on the cushion and get really solid in that, and then the off the cushion practice naturally happens, or
Yes,
should I keep working off the cushion too?
Generally, that's it's sort of like this, right? When you first learn how to drive, where do you start? Where do you start when you first learn how to drive?
Taking the foot on putting it on and off the gas and the brakes?
No, where? Where do you start? Not on the busiest highway.
Oh, on a quiet street.
Yeah, probably in a controlled space, probably in a big parking lot, late at night with nobody. So it's the same, the cushion is basically that. Yeah, of course, it's a contrived environment. It's a controlled environment, but it's the safe environment. So for that reason, the on cushion is more important, because there, you're making a point to say, right now I'm carving out this space and this time and devoting it to this. So as you train in that muscle, then that muscle becomes stronger off cushion. Sort of like training to fight in the ring, You don't just like throw yourself in the ring and start fighting, right? You train in the gym, punching a bag that doesn't punch back. A footnote, Buddhist examples often are quite violent. But it's all about overcoming violence. Some historians, have said this might have something to do with the fact that the Buddha's disciples mostly from the same class that he came from, the warrior class. So he spoke in terms that, kind of meant something to them quite naturally. Good. If we don't have other questions, then that's it for this week. Yeah. So yeah, go look up that commentary. I think it will help also in all the parts that we have covered so far. Read that commentary. As I say, I rely on that one. And then another one, an even earlier one, which is written by Geshe Chekawa student. So there are these two that have been translated into English. And it's really very helpful. And there's so much you can get from these old commentaries once you know how to read them. Which again, I said, if you have been attending the last 11 classes, including today, you know enough now, right, to read these commentaries. So I hope you'll find it helpful and inspiring. Let's see. Just calling your attention to, I met some of you at Southern Dharma Retreat Center in Hot Springs, North Carolina. So now for this whole season, they have moved everything to at-home retreat. They're not doing in-person retreat. So they've reached out to the teachers. More so, they were concerned about the teachers because for many of us teaching there, it's a dana system. The center doesn't pay us, but it is. They recognize that many teachers have kind of relied on that, stable year after year, to be able to teach there, and of course to be supported by the dana of the students. So really out of that, that Southern Dharma very kindly say, might you be interested in offering at-home retreat, doing it through the internet? And so I said, yeah, I'll do it, And so I am offering one in September. And it's a 4-day at-home retreat. So we're all at our homes, but during those 4 days, you set aside and you say, you're going to do this retreat. And basically, the practice that we're going to focus on is the Avalokiteshvara practice that I also did 6 classes on. But it's really a training in developing love and compassion. Then, of course, hiding somewhere back there is always wisdom, right? So it's really bodhicitta. But the kind of the technique, so to say. If 7 points Lojong, the technique is counting breath to 21. In that retreat, the technique, so to say, is the meditation on Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of Compassion, and the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. So as I said to some of you earlier, I said, because it is an at-home retreat, so you come on, at all the sessions. There's no like watching later, because we want you to really, leave those 4 days as a retreat. And so time zone differences, if you're 1 or even 2 hours behind, it's still possible. More than that, I think it'll be a real challenge to try to follow that schedule. Then your day will get really messed up. But if you're in the more or less the right time zone, you might want to consider signing up. We're keeping it to 30 people. I think there is a fee of $75, which is, it helps Southern Dharma, even though Southern Dharma say they can weather this. But of course, nobody knows how long this is going to be. So many retreat centers are in trouble as well. If you are interested, look it up. It's called Southern Dharma Retreat Center, sdrc.org, I believe. sdrc.org, and then look at the schedule there. Yeah. So have a good night. But at the end, as always, we do this dedication that says, the excellent and supreme Bodhicitta, where it has not arisen, may it arise. And where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase, stronger and stronger, higher and higher. Have a good night. Have a good evening. I'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.